नमस्कार क्रिकबज़ लाइव पे आपका स्वागत है मैं Sorry, I did the Hindi show for the last 2 days, so I'm just a little confused. I hope you got that, Gilly. Did you?
No, I completely agree with you. I concur, yeah.
Got all of it, right?
Yep.
Do you know what I said?
Easy. It's Cricbuzz Live.
That's pretty much all I said.
Let's do this.
That's pretty much all I said.
Let's do it.
I like that as a tagline. Hello and welcome to Cricbuzz Live. Let's do this. I'm Gaurav Kapur. With me, Adam Gilchrist and Zaheer Khan. In the right chair, I have left arm bat, right arm bowler. In the left chair, I have left arm bowler, right hand bat. On this chair, doesn't bat, doesn't bowl, puts both his hands in his pocket and just whistles. That's right. Both hands, all-time Vela, Cricbuzz Live. Here we are. India versus Australia. A really, really big game. I didn't need to say that, but sometimes I love to state the obvious. But for Australia, Gilly, this game a little bigger than perhaps it is for India. Just a tad.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
A fair bit right. Just before we get to that, what are you, right-hand bat?
Who, you?
You?
Me? Yeah, sometimes.
Right. Right-arm bowler?
Yeah, sometimes.
How are you with the gloves on?
I'm actually decent with the gloves on.
Excellent.
That may be my strongest suit, actually.
Good. Very
But the kind of cricket we play, we don't need gloves when wicket keeping. It's a little tennis ball.
yeah, tough. Breed them tough over here, don't they?
Yeah.
Massive game, huge game. It's a do or die for Australia, pretty much. I mean, I think there is an equation where should they lose, they still might be able to get through. So that everything's at play. It's much nicer to control your own destiny to an extent. Do that in big tournaments, but they let it slip. They just, whether it was lost a little bit of focus, I think we can touch a bit on that game against Afghanistan. It was in the selection where I had a slight concern with the way they went about it, which we can get to in a minute. But yeah, certainly all to play for tonight, our time, in the morning over there, isn't it? A day game, but you know, why not do it against the greatest rival that they have at the moment? I think India are the trendsetters. They're the global leaders in so many facets of cricket. So that's the challenge. You've got to beat the best to be the best.
I want to ask you one thing, though, because this is a rare, like you said, do or die. It got me thinking, this is a very rare situation for Australia in World Cups in the recent past. Now, I remember 1999, and you talk about that, the ODI World Cup, where the first few games were lost and everything seemed like it's going to get derailed, and then you guys fought back from there and lifted the trophy. But otherwise, I can't remember such a situation in the recent past where you've always had Australia kind of dominate and get there, right? I can't remember it. Can you, Zach? Can you remember any time when they were under the pump like this, that they may not qualify, not be 2 out of 4 teams?
I think 99 World Cup, Australia, I think.
Yeah, that's the one it goes back to.
England, sorry. In England.
Yeah.
That's the only one, right?
Yeah, I think
2003 pretty much dominated.
2003, 2007 in the 50-over World Cups were undefeated both times. So you're controlling your destiny. But the 2007, the inaugural T20 World Cup, we lost a game to Zimbabwe, which was more of an upset then than what Afghanistan beating Australia now was. But we did manage to scrape through into that semi, and then you guys absolutely creamed us. So,
but in that mentality, what I want to ask is that sometimes can you just, when you're so used to dominating, can a do or die actually sometimes just kind of confuse you? You're just like, wait, I don't know this, but these guys are all fighters.
At some point, even if you've won every game through a World Cup, at some point you hit a do or die game.
Fair
and
point.
That's the semi-final.
Fair point.
So it's just a game earlier at the moment. So it's a quarter-final in an old format. You can talk it up or look at it in so many different lenses and perspectives, but at the end of the day, you've got to win games. They lost their last game. You want to rebound and win, and they know they need to. So, yeah, whether it's a quarter-final or a semi-final, or the final indeed is a do-or-die game, isn't there? There's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
I like that thinking. Australia will be thinking of this as a quarter-final. Would India do this as well? Because, again, I go to another World Cup 2011, and your preparation for that, you guys talk about a lot where Gary Kirsten would talk to you, and you guys had this little thing of treating every game as a knockout almost 2 years leading up to it. Would India do well to think like this today as well? Big opponent, let us just take this as because they've not really been pushed, tested in this World Cup so far?
They've been tested in a different way. I think the conditions tested them in this World Cup. But as a team, you just got to focus on the processes. There's one way of saying that, okay, every game is important. And the other way of saying the same thing is by just focusing on the processes, isn't it? Just do the things which you've been doing, have those goals, have those processes and look out. So that will just ease you into the game. So yes, I mean, once you've qualified, then it becomes even more important that you tick those boxes. You make sure that you do your routine really well. It's very easy at times to just get not complacent, but just casual about your routine, thinking that okay, it's fine. So all those reminders, small little reminders. I'm sure Rahul is very good with that, isn't it? Just to make sure that boys, this is how we've got here. Methodical, he's very methodical in his approach. So that's what they must have done, I think. So it's just going to be sticking to the processes and doing the same things again and again with trying to be perfect.
I like the fact that this team, the India team I'm talking about, has looked at ease. They've looked very relaxed to the thing, and as all high-performing elite athletes will tell you, that when you want to combat pressure situations, it's those who are just more relaxed who tend to overcome them a little easier. Well, right now I can tell you that Australia has won the toss and chosen to chase. That's right, India is going to be batting first at a ground, very interestingly, which actually has been the highest scoring ground. That's not much to go by. That's like, it's like with the three of us, like who's taller by an inch? It's like we're all tall. And all the scores have been short that way. But this one has just been a tad ahead. I think 170 odd scores, 175 odd scores happening here, which seem gigantic compared to what's happened in the US.
I guess courageous by Mitchell Marsh, having decided to chase in the previous game. Against what many thought should have been the way to go. He's come out in a day game. So the nighttime matches there at St Lucia, we saw England chase down the West Indies score with relative ease. And the ball seemed to come on pretty well under the lights, but it's going to be daytime conditions. A bit of weather around, so maybe that's been factored into the equation, just to if rain comes and affects it, knowing what you're doing when you're chasing. But not sure on the selection, if we've heard yet, is Mitchell Starc back in? I'm wondering whether
should be,
Was that a forced change in the previous game, or that was just
it was not. No, it was not. No, I'd like to touch on that. Well, there you go. Mitchell Starc is back in.
For Ashton Agar.
Ashton Agar. So, and that's back to that sort of more regular team that you expected. That's what they generally have played with throughout the tournament, save for a bit of resting here or there, but Pat Cummins didn't play the first game, I think, just on the back of that busy IPL. So that selection in St Vincent, Andrew McDonald, the coach, came out and defended the selection. And here's his quote after the game. And you can read that for yourself. They felt that they needed more than 8 overs of spin, obviously. And it's just that once we knew we were playing at that venue, and we looked at that last line there, we looked at our squad of 15 and set it out before the tournament. So that tells me, I'm just wondering whether you can get too focused on something too far out. They've picked their squad knowing that they're going to be playing at St Vincent on that date, on that ground, and they're going to need 12 overs of spin. So therefore they bring Agar, don't play him up to this point, inject him into that. That's sort of good in theory, but I think what you can do, I just wonder whether they stopped and had a look at who they were playing on that ground. So they've known for months they're playing there. They've had this plan of getting the extra spinner in, but perhaps they needed to just move the line of sight a bit to the opponent, look at the top 2 batters, how vitally important they are to Afghanistan's chances, and go, well, what's our greatest strike weapon to get them out straight away? It's Mitchell Starc with a ball. And even if it's only 2 at the top, and then he doesn't bowl again, Tim David might have bowled some spin. I think they had enough variety there. So I understand the logic, but I just wonder if they had too long a look at that St Vincent venue with that plan in mind. But only that, Andrew McDonald said he stands by it, but they've been very quick to change it back now. So I think that's a a much better looking team for this tournament.
I think this is what we predicted last night as well when we were chatting on the Hindi show. We said this is the change that would happen because you know what Mitchell Starc can do, and you also know how important Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are up at the top, so you'd want to get that. And you know how Indian top order has been against left-arm pacers, against Mitchell Starc, the kind of champion bowler, so you knew that this change would happen. But again, they've got Travis Head as well, who could bowl a little bit of spin, Tim David maybe. So yeah, it was a little surprising that it's happened all for just one game essentially, right? But then India's taken 4 spinners as well. India knew that West Indies will have slightly turning tracks and they'd want to play 3 spinners, so they've taken the cover in the 4th, which is Yuzi Chahal, and just the 1 cover with the pace bowling, which is Mohammad Siraj, who's not in this team. India's gone with this unchanged team, which is one change made in the West Indies was get Kuldeep Yadav in because these pitches would help. And in Nassau, Long Island, you needed more pace. So Mohammad Siraj was playing at that point in time. But this looks like a set team. This is what they would play for the Super 8s. And to Gilly's point, India has planned it this way as well.
Well, but they were flexible enough to move it around when they played that first leg. They selected the squad with keeping the conditions in West Indies in mind.
Yeah.
And they were expecting the similar sort of conditions in US as well, but wasn't the case. So they went with Siraj there. But now I think this is going to be the playing lineup, which is the original plan of Indian team approaching these conditions. Their focus have been that number 8 batter. I think what IPL has brought on the surface is that if you have 8 batting options, then you can have that freedom at the top. And that's why Rohit Sharma have been very vocal about saying that, okay, we want to put bowlers under pressure. We're not looking at the individual milestones of 50s and 100s, but we want to just have that lookout of putting bowlers under pressure so that they can falter. And for that, you're going to need the batting depth. So this combination gets Aksar at 7 or 8, Aksar Jadeja. Depending on the situation, you can utilize their services. But that is the main approach which Indian team have taken. And Hardik's bowling is backing that. His form with the ball, it just aided that situation to perfection now in terms of keeping the stability in the playing 11.
Yeah, it's and actually all the batting options are coming good. Besides Ravindra Jadeja, everybody has got runs at some point in time. But just coming back to Australia for just a second and how important this game is for them, because if they win this, then they're good, right? But the fact is that they would get to only 4 points and that net run rate comes into play. But they're just way far ahead. There's a lot of scenarios.com here. We don't have Sean Pollock. Sean Pollock's still celebrating the South Africa win.
Yeah, well.
So we don't have him here yet. But there you go. If Australia beat India and Bangladesh beat Afghanistan, Australia will qualify because then Afghanistan would be on just 2 points. But there on form, I think it just looks like Afghanistan may get the better of Bangladesh. Yep. So let's look at that. If India beat Australia and Afghanistan beat Bangladesh, Australia stands eliminated. That's interesting. If Australia beat... that's too many, man.
Yeah. But that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? If Australia loses today, and Afghanistan wins, it's straightforward, isn't it?
What about 3, 4 and 5 then?
I've not read it.
Gotcha.
Let's read it. Come on. If Australia beat India and Bangladesh...
Lose to Afghanistan. India, Australia and Afghanistan will be tied on 4 points each. So it's saying Australia wins today, they get to 4. Afghanistan wins in the morning. So then everyone's at 4 points. And then net run rate comes into play. Yep. India beats Australia. Bangladesh beats Afghanistan. Australia, Afghanistan and Bangladesh should be tied at 2 points. Or if it gets rained out or abandoned, Afghanistan need to win versus Bangladesh to knock Australia out. So effectively, if India beats Australia today, then Australia's looking basically at their television set later in the day to see whether they qualify or not. So
I think even if Australia win, they need to monitor that game just to see Afghanistan.
But then the margin comes into play, and it'll be a big margin because net run rate advantage.
Afghanistan would need quite a crushing win to get ahead in the net run rate. But look, it's Australia have got one thing to do. They can't be standing here looking at that table and looking at net run. They just simply need to be looking at the opposition, at the conditions. They've summed it up. They've said we're going to bowl first, and they've just got to train their thought on that now and execute. And that's probably the biggest thing about it's not whether it's a do or die game or a quarter final. Australia just need to go, okay, where did we let ourselves down against Afghanistan? And it was in a number of parts, none the least the fielding.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about, and I don't say this to bring it up as a joke, but that World Cup final in November, the fielding, how good was it? That was absolute top class. As much as anything else, the bowling and everything, the fielding was superb. So that was the tempo. Quite the opposite against Afghanistan. So they've got to get that rectified, and they get that opportunity straight away.
If there was a choice between saying what Australia did right on November the 19th and what they did wrong against Afghanistan, if you could just do the latter, and that would just be a little balm for our wounds. If you could just carry on, take your time.
It's been a big 12 months for Australia, India, hasn't it?
It's been a big... You're right. And let's extend it for another 6 months, because it's going to be a big summer as well.
Absolutely.
So I think you're right when you call it probably the most relevant rivalry right now. Because there's just India and Australia just been playing so much. So I guess it's one of those. But of course, there's two teams in the other group who are saying, hang on just a second.
Yep.
And one of them is South Africa. And we must talk about South Africa, because today when DLS came into play, I was like, rain, World Cup, no, not again. Not for South Africa. But you know what has happened, right? Now, there's two ways of looking at it. Two ways of looking at it is, well, this game was this was a big win, right? I mean, I know it went to the last over and they won on the first ball of the last over, Marco Jansen hitting that 6 and getting it done. But this was a comprehensive win. Compared to their other wins, definitely a comprehensive win, right? But what has happened is they've copped a bit of flack, Zach, because it's like they haven't really been comprehensive wins. They've been close wins, right? Kind of gets a little nervy for them. Will they get it done? Will it not? Looks like they're squandering the opportunity. But the fact is, they are unbeaten. And, you know, you have to count them as favourites now.
Falling on the right side of the result.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And this format is like that, isn't it? If you're able to do that, how many teams actually can win consecutive 6 games?
Yeah.
Unless you're playing good cricket, you know, so you got to play good cricket. You're getting in tough situations. You're not there, you know, in terms of the numbers. They don't have any numbers to show, you know, especially with the batting group. Maybe bowling, they've been very consistent, but batting has been very up and down. Like you don't have that confidence when you're watching South African this playing 11 bat, even though on paper there is enough power.
One of the best.
There are enough good players. You know, all those things are going. But what they're going to say, they're in the semis. And they've not dropped a game.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. So you know, you got to believe. And when you have these kind of games, suddenly in the whole group, I'm sure they must be saying, guys, you know, we are getting in tough situations, but we're still finding a way of winning game of cricket.
There are tours you go on, aren't there, or tournaments, and there's just something like someone, sort of fairies have come down and sprinkled magic fairy dust, and for some reason you find a way.
2 good days, another 2 good days, and maybe
that's right.
You know, I hope India is not in the finals if that is the case. But you got to
Can we quote that? He hopes India aren't in the final.
No. I mean, you know, then
no, I know what you mean,
I'm just saying that when you see teams winning like this,
right? you get nervous against them.
Suddenly, like, they will play their best cricket on the day of the finals.
Yeah, good.
Because it's not happened so far for them.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen Australia play their good game in the tournament. You've seen India play their good
I know where your trauma's coming from.
I know,
from the 23 World Cup, where India was just dominating right through and ended up having one bad day in the final. And Australia had a very, very good day in the final. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so India also have not dropped a game so far in the tournament. But I think if it gets to that, any team would think this way when they're playing against South Africa. So even if India is playing, that will be that concern, and then you hope that, okay, South Africa, how they've been doing over the years in the World Cup, you know, that stays along.
Okay.
That will be the hope. But just in isolation, if you're looking at this team, things are going their way.
Yeah, the small mini events which used to go against them in World Cups are going with them in the World Cup. And just one last point on that, Gilly, because there's a lot of people talking about the fact that, they've not had a dominating win, or it's become too close, or they have a down period in the game. That's every team. You win a game, in that game, you're barely ever going to dominate for 40 overs, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, doesn't that happen to every team? I know because they had that nervy bit against Netherlands and they had that 1-run win against Nepal. It got close where England looked like they might usurp them. But the fact is, they've won all of them. And secondly, they will learn from the mistakes and where they let the game lose a little bit. But otherwise, nobody dominates for 40 overs. You'll have spells of play that the other teams also come to compete.
No, it's a good point. They were fantastic in the field this morning or last night, West Indian time. They really did control it. Shamsi was brilliant. I think their main concern is their batting. They're just they did nearly let that slip overnight. That once the rain came in and altered their chase, just altered the conditions a little bit. So it was very nervous times there for a moment. But again, they got it done. So no, you're right that you don't always dominate every facet every time. They have won, what is it now, 6 in a row, 7 in a row in this tournament?
6.
Whatever it is, 6. And they have every reason to feel confident and comfortable going into that semi. I don't see them as favourites. I see India and England as the two most likely teams. I don't know. I suspect who knows who's matching up against who in the semis. We don't even know who's there yet. But I just think in the conditions and the way they're playing, I just see India probably as the standout favourite now, but as you guys made, South Africa are there, and feeling comfortable and confident, and who knows?
Yeah, and let's just wait 40 overs. We'll know, right?
Yeah.
I just hope we get 40 overs today because there's some talk of some rain, etc. And you really wouldn't want rain to come down in this game. In India, Australia, that would really be a damn squib. A wet blanket. I'm done with my wordplay, I promised you. That's all I had. All right, let's have a look at our Naukri career score. This is brought to you by Naukri.com, India's #1 job portal. They know a little about growing careers, and they've used that experience and come up with an interesting way of looking at cricket numbers, cricket careers. And we're looking at this. We're looking at top batters in the last 10 years. Last 10 years. That is a big sample size. And in this format, that's quite a list. Yeah, Zach?
Yeah, it is quite a list.
It's quite a list.
And look at those names there. Butler is there, Virat Kohli obviously topping that list. You have Surya Kumar Yadav actually and KL Rahul as well there, who have been. Surya actually is a late entrant in that, but he's managed to really be very, very fast in climbing that ladder.
Yeah.
I think Rohit Sharma is someone who we all know, how what he brings to the table.
Yep.
And obviously, if you look at these numbers and the duration which you're talking about, 10 years. Lately, the focus have been purely on his leadership, isn't it? And how he's going on about cultivating that culture, along with Rahul Dravid to make sure that you go after those trophies with a lot of clarity, a lot of aggression, and a lot of belief. So that is something which has taken its toll, maybe to a certain degree, on his batting as well. But he's putting all those team achievements and team goals in ahead of his personal milestones.
Let's break down his numbers on the Naukri career score, and Gilly will get you in on those. You can look at that. #1 in terms of longevity, no surprise there. His overall, he's #2. Situational performance, win contribution, consistency. But I think we definitely want to focus on the longevity ever since he's come to open on that fateful day, and what was it? Where was it that MS told him that he's going to come and open? Was it Calcutta? Was it England? One of them. Anyway, it was about a dozen years ago.
Yeah.
And never looked back from then. And of course, it's just been, it's him and Virat, hasn't it? They've kind of been the tent poles of Indian batting in the last decade.
Yeah, no better representation of that than in that double super over match.
Yeah.
Where earlier this year against Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where I think they were 4 for 22, India. And Rohit stabilised and picked up 122 out of 212.
Yeah.
That's in that Naukri rating, situational performance. That's exactly what that represents. Is what was the scenario where you had to rebuild an innings and then launch and establish what turns out to be a winning score. So I love his longevity. That's the greatest characteristic of champions is longevity.
Yeah.
You've got to play for a long period of time. How do you play for a long period of time? You keep performing, you keep getting picked, and you keep giving the selectors every reason to have you there, and then you become, a real fulcrum, a real centre part of that team. So Yeah, I've loved watching his career since he burst onto the scene as a young Deccan Charger.
Around you as a young Deccan Charger, that's correct. Yeah, and he spoke about it to me, and he spoke about how much he enjoyed batting with you, and I'm sure you enjoyed batting with him as well.
Well, and it was his leadership qualities, even at a young age. We made him vice-captain. I think he was 20, vice-captain of an IPL team.
Yeah, I don't think he was shaving yet. Yeah, he was that young.
That's right, baby-faced little fella. But actually, the first time I saw him was prior to that first IPL at the SCG. And I think Sachin scored 100 at the SCG.
Right.
I think you guys beat us in the triangular one-day series, and he got a 50 there at the SCG. Very impressive.
I think batting at 6 or something.
Yeah, so that's 2008, early 2008.
Wow, that's the longevity we're talking about.
That's a champion.
Well, that's the good thing about the Naukri career score. I always say, don't just look at numbers, look at numbers with context. And that's what we aim to do. So that was the Naukri career score. Rohit Sharma, brought to you by Naukri.com, India's #1 job portal. All right, let's talk about what's happening in the game today in St. Lucia. A very, very important game, a Super 8 encounter. We've all been looking forward to India playing Australia. Mitchell Marsh has won the toss and put India into bat. India won't mind that. This is a friendlier wicket when it comes to batting. But of course, yes, they've got Mitchell Starc at the top. Didn't play the previous game against Afghanistan, but he's come in there. How important is that? Zach, left arm, quick bowler, opening against Rohit and Virat. He'll fancy his chances. Where do you think he can exploit their vulnerability?
Can I hit the repeat and play?
Yeah, we like it. Go on.
Because every time we talk about it, that's
we have to. You're the expert.
Which goes on, a left armer bowling to the right-hand batsman.
Yeah.
The ball coming back in at a good pace.
See, either we can ask you as the bowler, or we can ask Gilly as the wicket-keeper saying, what do you see? But I will start with you.
No, look, as a batter...
How would you bowl to these guys, to Kohli and Rohit?
To Virat, actually, he's a strong onside player.
Yeah.
So you get him just a touch outside off, and from there look to bring the ball back in as a left armer. Yeah. Odd ball is just going to hold it and then hold its line, and then you got a chance. With Rohit, pretty much the same thing. But Rohit, we've seen that he looks to be aggressive at times. So that basically creates an opportunity. We've seen that if you don't hold the shape, we've seen against Farooqi and few times can really create a catching opportunity there. But generally, the right-hand batters would obviously open up, try to cut that swing. Maybe some batters look to go forward to cut that swing, play the ball late. These are the kind of methods which right-hand batters will be looking to use. I mean, these are just the basic, and then eventually you got to go with the feel of the game.
Yeah.
But what, as a bowler, and what Mitchell Starc will be thinking right now is that you got to be warmed up and you got to hit the rhythm from the word go. Because that first 3 deliveries for any batter, that's the window of opportunity for you to sneak in.
Yeah.
And if you are able to just get the ball in the right area at good pace with a bit of swing, you always have a chance.
It's big game player versus big game player when you see at the top, because Mitchell Starc's another one. Big game comes and he checks in. Virat Kohli's another one. Loves the big game. He really sticks in when a big game comes. So that's an interesting encounter up top.
It is, yeah. They're the bulls of world cricket, aren't they? The big boys. They're up there with good reason and good results and a history to prove that. I think Mitchell Starc, he's been bowling a bit in Test cricket. Often, obviously he looks to swing it back into the right-hander, but he also has like a scrambled seam ball where he's not looking for that perfect upright. He just gets it down there and it just carries on its line, and maybe it being a bit scrambled, it might just deviate a fraction without any real control.
It becomes like a off cutter.
Yeah.
But it's a faster off cutter.
Yeah.
Because a lot of bowlers, they don't want to miss their shape in the release point, isn't it? So if you look to push the ball, not every bowler will have that kind of control. They're
you lose a bit of the rhythm.
They're scared of losing the shape of in-swinger.
Yeah.
So you just basically scramble it, and then you're still bowling in-swinger, but the ball is not going to swing because of the scramble.
The aerodynamics of the ball change, and it just carries on its way. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does try that a little bit and sees if he can lure that Virat just to chase one a little bit. But
love it.
It's an enticing battle, isn't it? It's really great to watch.
I love how Zach says it's basic. Like we've all got 300 test wickets, right? Like we've all got 300 test wickets. It's pretty basic. You can do it.
I can
Try it at home.
I can talk you through my 1 wicket if you like.
We'd love that. An entire thought process. We relive the ball that you bowl. Excellent. Well, it's the way Zach talks about that ball being basic. Joy talks about these questions being basic. And just like we don't know how to bowl like Zach does, we don't know how to answer these questions. So it's exactly the same. Find the missing name. Lasit Malinga, Tim Saudi, Mark Pavlovich, Wasim Abbas and...
Oh, I know that. I know exactly what that is. I've finally got one.
Oh, you do?
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
That's a good...
Is it Pavlovian?
Pavlov's dogs.
I, of course, have no idea, but then I never have. Do you know, I'll remember this because it's exactly like a broken watch is correct twice a day.
Yeah.
I've got, in 6 or 7 years, I think I've got 2 Joy Factor questions and I got them pretty much by mistake. I just blurted out something and it happened to be correct. And Joy was sitting right here looking mortified. Like the kid with a hand in the cookie jar. He says, how has he got that? Like how? Broken watch. Hashtag Joy Factor, hashtag Cricbuzz Live. So send in your tweets and we shall wait for the first correct answer. Correct answer is something I can't get when it comes to the guessing game, which is why I am down right at the end at the points table with danger of being relegated to the second division. But I shall still try today. India batting first. I'll tell you what, I don't want to influence your guesses with my negative energy and my bad track record. So I'll let you guys go first.
What have you thought about? High or low?
I'm going high.
How high? 190s?
190.
190.
I'm actually going a little safe. 175, I think.
Okay, great.
But St. Lucia, it's not been like a consistent pitch, isn't it? Some games have been...
Yeah. It's a bit of a lottery.
One side, yeah.
The whole tournament's been a lottery, hasn't it? Trying to pick scores, but
And
I'll be happier if it's
of Australian
175.
bowlers, yeah. I think Australian team will show that desperation as well, you know. So
Okay.
might be...
I'll go 184. Batting lineup's in good nick. So I'll go 184. That's if there's 20 overs. If there's lesser overs, what do? Do we divide it and go with run rate and multiply? Or do we do DLS? Because I can't...
I think the fair and equitable thing would be we all get a point.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
As soon as there's rain, if there's an over lost, we all get a point.
Only difference is that we don't have points here. We have percentages.
Percentage, yeah.
So just give it correct.
Yeah.
I like this rule.
You get
Give
the
it correct,
50%.
that's right.
As the governing council of the guessing game,
Excellent.
passed. Approved. That's it. All right, well, we're going to see you at the end of the 10th over with Cricbuzz Combox. India and Australia playing at St. Lucia. Australia has won the toss and put India into bat. That's all we have for you from right arm bowler, left hand bat, right hand bat, left arm bowler, and from completely useless, both hands in the pocket and whistling, Gaurav Kapur. It's bye on Cricbuzz Live.